Hi folks, I'm Aleks U and you are awesome! Today I have these cupcakes. Typically I have fruits, but these are vegan, delicious, whole wheat actually, cupcakes. Guilt-free as they can be, that my wife makes. And she's decorating on top with different shapes. This one is rose, this one is some other creation that she's very creative. But they smell amazing because they have coconut in them, and so it puts you right into the present moment. The timer is up, we have 15 minutes. The topic here, as we are present, I'm going to put them on the side, is why do I talk to myself? That's the topic of this conversation. Now, I can answer it very quickly. The reason you talk to yourself inside, not when your lips are moving. Although nowadays the ego is evident even when you talk to yourself verbally with your mouth, lips moving. It's because you are addicted to it. That's the short answer. I'm addicted to my conversations in my head, and the billions other beautiful humans walking on this planet are addicted to their conversations. And it's as simple as that. And I think the faster we realize that the voice in our heads, the chatterbox, the ego, the monkey brain, the bugs talking, walking, and creating endless stories, the faster we understand that all that is very, very, very addictive, the better. Oh, I can't have enough of it. Every time you smell something nice, it's a quick shortcut to get right to the present moment, because the brain has to process the smell and it doesn't think, even though if it's for a few seconds. So if you notice, let's say I'm going to examine my day, right? I wake up in the morning and typically you already have conversations in your head. By the time you get aware and conscious, they're awake. And maybe there's a little window there where there was no thought. It's just this kind of a aware state that there isn't anything engaged yet, right? You're not actively engaging with any thoughts and labeling, talking, thinking, creating future stories, projecting. And so if you're aware of it, if you're present, you're gonna catch that moment. It's could be short, but it's a very beautiful moment, right? But typically we don't even notice that moment, and it might not even be there for many of us because we're so accustomed to thought, to talking and thinking inside, right? That I start the conversations in my head very early, right? Almost immediately when I'm awake. And you can see and I challenge you, I suggest tomorrow when you wake up, notice how you wake up and then the conversations with yourself, right, inside, they start to elevate. Like you can notice from the moment you start aware of them, they start building up, right? And you can get very jacked up and stressed right from the very early morning. Now, there is biology behind it. When you, during the process of waking up, during the night, as the morning comes, the melatonin and probably other things that happen, but melatonin for sure is being reduced, right? The production of melatonin, which is one of the hormones that actually puts you to sleep or gets your body into sleeping mode, gets reduced. And adrenaline, and probably a bunch of other things, is another hormone that actually is being the production is increased, and in fact it's one of the highest amount of adrenaline right in the morning, to actually physically get the body up, to get the heart going, to get you up and at them, as they say, right in the early morning, right? So those compounds, the melatonin and the adrenaline, they kind of come to a point where one is non-existent, the other one is up, and that gets your brain wired up and more active as well, because there's things are happening, your body is awake. And the conversations can be quite heavy in the morning for many of us, and I'm giving you the example of myself. So I'm starting the conversations in my head, and it's very interesting because it feels so familiar that I don't even question it. That is not true. That is fictional, right? Like you are laying on the bed and the conversations are pouring in, but none of it has anything to do with this current moment of reality. Now, the defend, these thoughts and this conversation, your imaginary self will defend itself that you must think about it. There's a need for it. Like, the things I think about are true and they have value. I'm planning, I'm thinking about the day, I am projecting, I'm prepared, I'm gonna gain this, I'm gonna, in its own conversational world. The thoughts help you get ahead in many different projected ways that the ego spurs out in your mind, right? And so you don't even notice that they're fictional because they're so convincing, and I'm so familiar with those thoughts, this conversation with myself, that I fall into it, and not even fall into it, I'm in it, right? Like, it almost feels like I'm never out of it. And so, as I was saying, as I'm waking up, I'm waking up, not waking up, I'm waking up, these thoughts elevate, right? Or they increase. And if you notice, they can reach to a level where you actually start to be stressed, right? The anxiety levels, right? The stress level increases because they become more and more and more and more. And so what happens is you get out of bed, you're thinking that if you do, and this is very subtle, because the conversation in our heads many times are so negative and so heavy that we are accustomed to think that if I do the next thing in my day, it's gonna be better, right? I gotta get up, I gotta take a shower, I gotta go eat. And so as I do these physical activities, I'm thinking, I'm convinced I'm gonna escape this unpleasant feelings that the conversation with myself inside brings, right? Like this is very subtle, but it's gonna help you realize a lot how you behave during the day, right? Why are we always moving to the next thing and rushing and wanting to do, like it's the pull to do the next thing, wherever it is, right? Like going to the store, talking to someone, calling someone, going to meet someone, going to eat, going to work, whatever. Like it's this immediate push that, and it's interesting because your ego cannot realize this, right? Every time you're running away from now, because now hurts. Now is painful because this conversation constant with myself, it creates drama. It doesn't exist outside. I create it for myself. It could be uncomfortable outside. My life could be physically uncomfortable. That's true. But the pain, the actually mental, emotional discomfort comes from my interpretation and conversations about everything that's happened and will happen. And so I'm trying to escape this mental heaviness. And so it's become almost innate that I'm always moving to the next thing in my day, right? I gotta get up. I can't stay in the bed, right? Have you noticed that? When you're thinking, maybe when I get up it's gonna get better, right? And maybe it gets better for a little bit because there's different experiences. I'm going to the bathroom, I'm gonna wash my face, okay, I can feel the water. Maybe I'll cook myself breakfast if you eat breakfast, or maybe I'll just stretch a bit. So for a moment, there's a different physical experience, present moment experience, and the thoughts can be reduced, or the conversation with myself can kind of, subside for a bit. But sure enough, they quickly come back as this exercise I'm doing or whatever activity I'm doing starts to get familiar and repetitive again. The thoughts rush in right away, or the conversation continues and increases again. So then I move on throughout my day, and the conversation with myself will increase or decrease depending on what I'm doing, depending on the level of physical present moment engagement necessary to carry on the task I'm doing. So for example, say I'm driving, I'm kind of out of the parking lot and lots of looping around at the beginning. I need to be more engaged because I gotta turn signals, I gotta look, there's bikes, cars, humans, right? And so I'm relatively present, relatively. The conversation is still there, for sure. And now the conversation can start engaging with all the other idiots on the road and things that are happening, right? Because that's what the ego will label. You're God. Well, you are special, not God, because ego doesn't that's a no. You're not God, because if you were God, then you control your life. But you're special, right? You don't control your life because things happen to you. That's what the ego, as fundamental belief is, so that it can complain, right? And then but you're special and everybody else is a moron, right? That's what the ego labels it for different reasons. So the conversation can elevate for sure, but if it doesn't, as to that extent, I'm a little less engaged in the conversation, a little more paying attention. But as soon as I come up on a main road, major or a highway, then I can kind of cruise, right? And then it starts. Then again, it can start labeling and conversation for outside. And remember, this is happening in your mind. How crazy is this? It's happening in my mind. How are we okay with this? It's become the way to live. We don't even question it. How insane it is. We are all crazy, literally, right? By talking to ourselves in multiple characters. Self-creating drama, pain and exhaustion on different levels throughout the day. And yet, we're trying to fix things outside. We gotta fix the road. The road has too many potholes. Of course, the ego will tell you, how can it be this way? I pay my taxes. And everything else outside. But inside, or even on your body, right? If there's a problem, illness, whatever, is the problem. But the real problem, let me go back. The only problem that I have, that we have as humans, is this conversation with ourselves. This unstopping, or it is stoppable actually, very easy, but it seems to be unstopping chatterbox conversation with myself. That's what keeps the ego alive, because the self needs to talk to the self. I should say, the imaginary self needs to talk to its imaginary self, right? Selves, right? So that it's alive. Because the moment you realize that is a conversation in your mind and you can stop it by stop interacting with it, believing it, engaging with it, and have this moment of, that was a dream. I've been dreaming this whole time that I am this imaginary self, and I'm dreaming the conversation actually itself. It's dreaming it, because if it stops, and it can stop, and you still are, there is a presence in you, about you, right? That continues on, like right here. I have no thoughts right now. I am now here with you. And I am without my thoughts, without conversing with myself inside. Which means that's a thing, a dream, a conversation I engage in, and it can go, I stay. I as in my being, I, as in part of the totality that you and I are. And so, as addictive as it is, this conversation itself is the only thing you have to let go. No other addiction, that's the only one. Every other thing that you think you have wrong with your life will go with it, right? Or it won't be a problem, mental problem. We're coming up to our time today, but and you can confirm that for yourself. I don't have to say I confirm. The most beautiful thing that can happen to you is stopping the conversation with yourself. And there's no remedy as such as in you can take something and stop it. Yet, hopefully one day, maybe, and hopefully that's it. Hopefully I'm hanging on to the ego, hopefully it comes up next, something that will fix it. But you can let it go right now. And I can. I'm not saying that, oh, okay, you can, but you're not and you lose it. No, it's very addictive. I'm addicted to it. You are addicted to your conversations. And we should admit it, right? Like it's a, well, I don't want to go about labeling it illness and this and then hang on and we gotta cure it. No, the cure of it is being present. It's the simplest thing, yet the most challenging for us humans, because we don't like the present moment so much. We like to be in the conversation. We're addicted. But the first thing is, that's why they say forgiving yourself. To forgive yourself that you are dreaming. That's what it means. You cannot forgive the dream because it's not real. But you can forgive yourself the fact that you are dreaming and this conversation with yourself. And when you say, now, okay, I forgive myself for falling into it, for being addicted, then you stop judging, you stop trying to explain, to reason, which means you're not in the dream anymore. The moment you stop conversing, explaining, justifying, and all that with yourself, that means the self is gone. And you are the only thing that's left. And you are beautiful. I'm looking forward to seeing you next weekend. And until then, as I always say, less ego and a lot more joy. Bye.